guys for coming to my seminar today called How to Reach Youth Through Visual Storytelling. You just got a chance to see the trailer for one of the comic books in our series called Daniel Dreamgazer. This is a comic book series that me and my brother have made on the life of Daniel. We have 3 comic books out right now. We have 1 comic book per chapter in the book of Daniel. We're going to be doing all 12 chapters. Right now we're working on our 4th. We're raising funds for that comic book to be put to print. So today we're going to be talking about visual storytelling. That's such an important thing. One of the ways that you could do it is through comic books. Some people do it through writing stories in books, and it's still visual because you try to write it in a way that you get that the people reading can visualize it. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and how you can be able to tell stories in a visual way. But perhaps the best way I can talk about visual storytelling is by giving you an example right now. Around the year 602 BC, Nebuchadnezzar was tossing and turning in his bed. And in Daniel chapter 2, verse 1, it says, "Now in the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. And his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him." The people heard of the commotion, and so the soldiers busted in.
"My king, is everything all right?"
The dream.
"What is it?"
My dream. It was so terrible.
Wait, a dream? Are you saying that this was like a nightmare?
This was no ordinary nightmare.
This is something beyond comprehension. I need to know what it means.
Know what means?
The dream.
What happened in the dream?
Call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans. I need answers.
What?
No! Then the king gave command to call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dream.
"Sir, I gathered some of the magicians, astrologers, sorcerers, and Chaldeans, as the king asked."
"The king is highly agitated. He is demanding answers. I hope you men have them."
So they came and stood before the king, and the king said to them,
I have had a dream,
"And my spirit is anxious to know the dream." Then the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Aramaic. "O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation." The king answered and said to the Chaldeans,
my decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made an ash heap.
An ash heap? Whoa, where did that come from? What just happened? Is he serious right now? However, if you tell the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts, rewards, and great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and its interpretation." This doesn't make sense. It's impossible. They answered again and said, "Let the king tell the servants the dream, and we will give his interpretation." But the king answered and said,
"I know for certain that you would gain time, because you see my decision is firm.
If you do not make known the dream to me,
There's only one decree for you, for you have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the time has changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me the interpretation. This will prove to me that you're telling the truth. The words have already gone out of my mouth. I'm not taking it back. You are not going to buy time till you just make up a lie. This is my test. If you are able to tell me the dream, then I can actually trust the interpretation you have to say about it."
The Chaldeans answered the king and said, "There is not a man on earth who can tell the king's matter. Therefore, no king, lord, or ruler has ever asked such a thing of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldean. It is a difficult thing the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. The king didn't like that. For this reason, the king was angry and very furious and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. That's it! You cannot do this simple task. Simple? This is not simple. Then what need do I have of you? I want these so-called wise men killed. And so the decree went out. Wait, please. We can figure this out. The Bible says, and they began to kill the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. They could hear all the commotion happening from the outside. What is going on outside?
I think I just heard someone at the door.
I've got it. Daniel, are you sure you want to do that? That's all right. I'll be fine. I'm going to just see what... Whoa. Arioch? What is going on?
I'm sorry, Daniel, but the king has ordered all the wise men in the land to be killed.
Hold on 1 second. What is happening right now? Stop! We didn't do anything wrong. Whoa! Hold on. Wait a minute. That doesn't make sense. You gotta explain. Then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree from the king so urgent? Then Arioch made the decision known to Daniel.
The king had a dream and he wants to know what it means.
But he's not telling anyone what he dreamt. He wants to see if anyone is wise enough to know what he saw in the first place. Then they could give the dream's meaning. It doesn't make sense to me, but I have my orders. The king wants all the wise men dead. Because obviously, the initial group had no idea what happened in the king's nightmare.
But that's not fair. Yeah, we weren't even part of the initial group that was asked. Give us a chance. Let me talk to the king.
Fine. Perhaps it can bring an end to this madness.
So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, that he might tell the king the interpretation.
I said I wouldn't give extra time.
But I do want to know the meaning of this dream. King, I wasn't there when you called the initial group of wise men, and I'm not asking to know what you dreamt. If you give me some time, I will tell you what you dreamt and its meaning.
You have proven yourself in the past to not be like the others. Fine. I will grant you this extra time.
Thank you, King Nebuchadnezzar. Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. So what happened? The king gave us some extra time. But how are we going to know the dream, what the dream means, if we don't even know what he dreamt in the first place?
Yeah, I'm not interested in dying today.
Listen to me, you guys. We are going to pray that they might seek the mercies from the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Lord, God, have mercy on us. We know we don't deserve your help, but we come united in prayer asking for your grace.
God, we could have used this time to run and escape, but we are asking for you to give us answers.
Lord, show us what the king dreamt and tell us what it means. And so, as they prayed later on that night, Daniel fell into a deep sleep. I imagine as he dreamt,
he saw the king. King Nebuchadnezzar? Hello? Hello? Can you see me? What are you looking at? Whoa. Crack! He saw in the distance this mountain and a rock was being cut out of it without hands, and he watched as this stone started tumbling down the mountain, falling to the feet of the statue, which started to crash down. Poof! And as the dust settled, all the debris was everywhere, and all he could see was a crater with the stone in it. And he watched as the wind blew the debris away. But then he saw the rock is starting to grow. And whoa! And he saw it grow until it filled the whole earth. What is happening? Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. Yes, yes, you guys, wake up. What? I was sleeping. Get up. God did it. God did what? God did it. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his." And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's demand. Therefore, Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. Wait! Stop! He went and said thus to him, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation."
You actually got it?
Yes!
So then let's go and end this bloodshed.
Then Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said thus to him,
I have found a man of the captives of Judah who will make known to the king his interpretation.
The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar,
Are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation?
Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed were these. As for you, O king, thoughts came to your mind while on your bed about what will come to pass after this. And he who reveals secrets has made known to you what will be. But as for me, this secret has not been revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone living, but for our sakes who make known the interpretation to the king, and that you may know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. The image's head was of fine gold,
its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floor. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. Now, we will tell the interpretation of it before the king. I like how Daniel said the word we. The Bible doesn't say that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went with him. This we, I believe, must be Daniel talking about himself and God. We will tell the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory, and wherever the children of men dwell, or beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. Nebuchadnezzar must have loved that. But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours. Then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of the iron shall be in it. Just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, and as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Daniel revealed to King Nebuchadnezzar the dream and his interpretation. And although the Bible does not mention any dates, we know from historians and commentators that this followed the successions of multiple kingdoms and nations that preceded Babylon. You have Babylon, which reigned from 612 BC to 539. Then Medo-Persia, which came right after to 331 BC. Then Greece, which came after, to 168 BC. Then Rome from 168 BC to 476 AD. And then from that year onward, we have divided Europe. The Bible is clear from history that it matches up with this dream. Then Daniel continues. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. He did it. He knew the dream and its interpretation. Then the king fell on his face and prostrate before Daniel and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him.
No one could have ever done this, to be able to know what another man dreams and be able to explain its meaning.
The king answered Daniel and said, "Truly, your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret."
Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts. And he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar, this is such a great privilege to be made ruler over all the land. But I wasn't the only one who sought the God of heaven for the secret of your dream.
Who else? They also must receive high-ranking offices in my kingdom.
Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel, he sat in the gate of the king. To be continued. So that was an example of visual storytelling. I told the story of Daniel chapter 2 using illustrations, using some voices, and just being expressive with my dialogue. You see, for me, I wanted to do a Daniel seminar. And if I'm going to do a Daniel seminar, I wanted to go through each verse and each chapter in the book of Daniel. A lot of Daniel seminars skip chapters, or they just kind of bounce around with proof texting. But I wanted to actually just go through all of it. And so you got to see all of Daniel chapter 2 told in a very illustrated visual way. And matter of fact, you can actually get Daniel chapter 2 as a comic book on our website, DanielDreamGazer.com. And so right now what I want to do is to talk to you a little bit about how you can also tell stories in a visual way. Perhaps you care about the youth, or you're a youth leader yourself, or maybe you have children and you want to know how to reach them. How do you do it? Through visual storytelling. Well, there's some principles to keep in mind. Perhaps you are an artist, and that's a great way to tell stories visually. Or perhaps if you don't have artistic skills, you can still paint a picture verbally with your words. Whenever I preach sermons and I'm telling a story, I like to try to get people to imagine the scenes, to be able to be in the moment. And that will help them to visualize it. Because if they can visualize the story, they can remember it. You know, Jesus was a master storyteller. He told parables. The Bible talks about how he never really taught without telling a parable. And Jesus would tell these stories, and these stories were things that would connect with the people, and this would be something that would resonate with them, and it would be something that would last with them. Think about think about the last sermon you heard. Do you remember the sermon? Try to think about a sermon you heard years ago. Do you remember it? Now, maybe you do, but a lot of times it's very hard to remember a sermon. But now think about a story that you heard in a sermon or at church. That's easier to remember. For whatever reason, stories are easier to remember. Stories are easier because it paints a picture in our mind. Now, what we do with our comic books is that we tell a story and we help you to be able to see it in your mind visually, because we actually have illustrations. But even if you don't have actual illustrations that you've made, you can find pictures on the internet. You can find different storybooks that have been made, and you can use it to be able to help illustrate your story, help them to visualize it. If you don't have any of those things, you can tell the story just expressing with your voice, expressing with your words. When you write a story, you can try to paint a picture talking about how it was a beautiful landscape with many hills. When I start talking about the hills and talk about how green they look, you're able to start imagining it in your mind. And that helps to paint the picture there. So again, you don't always need visuals to do visual storytelling. When you're verbally telling a story, this is what I do with my students in my preaching class. I tell them to first imagine the story, and then As you're imagining the story, start expressing and explaining what you see as you're imagining the story. Be in the moment, be in the story, be in the middle of the action and explain and say what's happening to the people listening. And that simple principle of putting yourself in the action, not saying you got to talk in first person, but just being present there helps the story to come alive and people are able to imagine it. And so one thing you could really do at church is maybe even use your children's story time and have your young people tell the story. But don't just put them up there to do it. Work with them. I like to do workshops with my youth on telling stories. So therefore they can be able to make it a very interesting and an awesome experience. Maybe what you could do is you could get a group of young people and have them tell stories by maybe putting together a skit or videotaping them and making a little video or a mini movie. This is something I did with my churches all the time, and this is something that really helps to really add extra quality to the program. I remember telling the story of Jesus' birth, which is another illustrated story that me and my brother have done. And I remember doing it in multiple churches. And in one of my last churches that we had it in, we gave out flyers in the community. We mailed it out. And that was the biggest turnout from the community to be able to see a visual storytelling. Just having the flyer with a picture of a character in a cartoon form and saying, oh, it's going to be an illustrated storytelling. That seems attractive. That seems interesting. And so the people came out for this awesome event. One example of visual storytelling was when I was invited to one of these community centers that housed many at-risk teens. Some of them were just out of juvie. In fact, some of those kids had to sit in the balcony because they couldn't sit with the other kids because they were that dangerous. They had like their orange jumpsuits and everything. And the staff told me that be careful with interacting with them. Don't get too close because they're dangerous. They told me that, hey, maybe you might want to keep it short because, these kids have a real tough time having attention span. The staff was nervous for me because I was invited there to speak, but they didn't really, they felt like the last time that people came and spoke, it was a bad situation. But I pray to God and ask God for the strength to be able to tell a story to them. So I told the story of Samson. I didn't have any illustrations on the screen. I just used my words and my body language to help them to visualize the scenes. And it was as if these kids were hearing it for the first time. And maybe they did hear it for the first time. They were amazed and shocked at all the moments that happened in the story. They were soaking it up. Those kids would laugh at the moments that were funny. They were fixated in the moments of suspense. These kids were behaved. The ones that these kids who were problematic kids and the kids who the staff said wouldn't be able to last very long, they stayed for the entire thing. The power of storytelling. I have an opportunity to go there again, and this time I'm planning to tell one of the stories of the book of Daniel. I'm looking forward to going there and talking to those kids. And now, not just the words and body language, but using actual visuals to tell them the story. And I really want to actually give them all a gift. I want to give them all one of the comic books there so they can have it and it could be theirs. In fact, during this time right now that we're doing this global camp meeting, if you want to donate a book to them, you can do so by going to danieldreamgazer.com and go to sponsor youth on the menu, and you can specifically choose how many books you want to donate to kids. Telling stories visually is an amazing tool to reach people for Christ. I've been in the community multiple times, trying to go to their flea markets and trying to give away like some of those books that we would have from our bookstores. And a lot of times it's very tough trying to give away books like as if they're tracts. It was very tough. But the last time I went, I brought my comic books. I put up a banner, and not only were people willing to take the books, but they were excited about it. They came. They were willing to donate money. The people were saying thank you. Normally when I give out flyers, people are like, no. But here I was giving out bookmarks with an illustrated character, and they were happy. They were saying thank you. They were telling their kids of how awesome this is and how inspiring it was. And they would take the coloring pages and the activity pages, and it was like a different world in trying to witness to young people, this time with visual storytelling. It was like so easy now to be a witness and to reach people. This is like an amazing track that you can give away. This is an awesome gift that you can give people. If you want a witnessing tool, this is something that you want to pick up. In fact, if you go to my website, danieldreamgeezer.com, and you click the bulk order button, then you can actually buy in bulk and be able to give these out as gifts to people in the community. I'm telling you, in my experience of trying to witness and give out tracts and give away books, this has been the easiest one to connect with people. The power of storytelling. The latest book that we produced was this one based on Daniel chapter 3, dealing with the fiery furnace. Is called The Forge of Fire. And we'll end by showing you this trailer for this book, after which we'll have a little bit of Q&A if you have any questions.